What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here. So basically I have an imposter variation in the vise. It's a really simple tie, and basically, so Flymen Fishing Company's got a new fly tying contest out. What is it? It's April 18th or something, 2017. So about that time of year when you're watching this, and it has to do with the new Faux Bucktail, and so it's the Faux Bucktail Throwdown 2017. And so I had the idea, is like, you know, this is a jerk fly. I typically tie it on a thin wire 4/0 light predator stinger. And instead of doing dubbing brushes, save a little bit of time, especially for people who maybe don't have a dubbing brush maker or anything like that. It would be super easy to substitute Faux Bucktail. It's the perfect length, it's durable, you get the right silhouette action, and it adds just a little bit of material mass without friction to help propel that fly forward through the water and get that jerk action with that tall head. So this is a very straightforward, simple imposter variation that I'm going to do using the Faux Bucktail for the Faux Bucktail Throwdown. And I'm going to tie this on the 4/0 light predator stinger from Ahrex hooks. I'm going to come in with a 100 strand GSP here, and we're just going to run down to just shy of the hook point. The hook point is about where this starts to bend down. You can see I'm just in front of that, and that's where I'm going to tie in my Flashabou minnow body, which we're going to use to get a little bit of flare to kind of imitate the core of what would be a 7-inch synthetic dubbing brush. And at the end of this video, hopefully I'll start talking about some jerk fly animation, retrieves, considerations, how you build them. But for the most part, we're just going to work on the fly tying right here. So I got Flashabou minnow body. This is like a size large and opal, and I just roughed up one end, pull that over to the mid body of the material, hit that with some loose wraps, and then once it's tied down, you can add some good pressure to that, and then we're just going to reverse tie that. So you see we get this little material bump, which, by the way, I've been using to do a handful of intruders and swing style flies I've been working on that I haven't showed you guys yet. But it's a really cool system to use for swing flies to get a little wing support right there. So I'm just going to come in, we're going to do a little thread bump right here. I corded my thread up, give it a little spun so it's nice and round, build an aggressive little kind of material thread bump right here to really help secure that Faux Bucktail in a consistent place. I'm kind of going to spin this. That's sealed up. I need some new, I got to get my new super glue out. That one's closed up. But I just want to protect that Flashabou cord real quick before we go into this thing. So I'm going to come in with a nice sparse stack of Faux Bucktail. This is at full 6-inch lengths. I'm going to give it just a little bit of taper, maybe 2 inches of taper to get a nice little teardrop, but because we're going to layer this, you don't need to taper it significantly. I pull up on the butts and I see where my tapered butts end, right? And these short tapers are going to be your 6-inch full-length fibers. And then I'm just going to come in, give that a clean edge cut. And then I'm almost going to treat this exactly like bucktail. We're going to get like 3 loose wraps on there. And then I'm just going to lightly, with my thumb, add some pressure and help rotate this around the hook shank to get an even distribution. Add a little bit of pressure, check it out. Out of everywhere it is kind of displaced, the bottom is the one I'm least concerned about because I want it to kind of split that hook point to reduce any following or anything like that. Once I'm happy with that, give that some good pressure, tie down those butts, and you are ready, set, and good to go. So you can see that's got quite a bit of flare to it. It's going to help support our Flashabou wing, and it's obviously going to teardrop once that gets a little bit wet and you add some water tension to that. But I'm going to come in now with some Magnum Flashabou. Now I have an interesting blend. I have like matte silver, matte gold, hollow green, and a dyed pearl and chartreuse. I already tapered this at about, what is it, about 3 inches worth of taper. And I'm going to use this almost at full length. So I have just the 3 inches sticking out and then the remaining of the fibers. And this is Magnum Flashabou that I've already cut in half. So it's the length basically of normal Flashabou, right? And the way we're going to do this is I like to use this kind of stiffer material for the tail. It adds just a little bit of length, but we're going to come up with normal Flashabou for the forewing flash stack. And that's how it kind of saves you a step to just do Magnum on the back and then standard on the front. Fold that over, tie it down double, no sense in cutting that off, and it helps build the taper so you got short fibers coming off this wing, bleeding into long fibers, getting a good teardrop out of our Flashabou. And then because I've wrapped onto my faux bucktail, I'm going to wrap it up and cover up all my previous thread wraps so that when I super glue this, it's all safely protected. And then I'm just going to run up to my front wing. Just going to be about right there. You're going to have to use your gut for that. So we have this super light, zero water absorption. There's really nothing to trap water either core with a good amount of bulk. And we're going to get most of our material saturation, our silhouette saturation, from EP GameChanger blended fibers. The GameChanger fibers are what you want. The EP GameChanger fibers are a stiffer, coarser material than the EP fibers. And that's what we're going to use to kind of build our saturation and our silhouette. Because you'll see the fly is pretty long. It's maybe 8.5 inches long, but the saturation of the fly is only 6.5 inches long. And I'll talk about the jerk action and how that silhouette and that saturation plays a role into where a pike's going to strike and how you can get away with a 9-inch fly but having a single hook and not really missing any fish or any opportunities like that. So that'll be all at the end, I suppose. So super glue, and then we'll run this up. Cool. So I'm going to come in a little bit larger section of Flashabou minnow body. You can see it's about a shank length is all I'm using, and I still have the rope in here. You can see this is all woven around a rope section. Pull that out, and again we're just going to rough up these fibers with our fingers, and we're using this solely as a material dam system to flare that faux bucktail. And it helps. So you'll see this, it's kind of tricky to get the first wrap on here, so you got to do a really loose wrap and then cinch it down. Then you can bind it down, flare the other end, and then reverse tie that. So something I really like about this variation is first and foremost, it's a little bit quicker to tie. There's no, kind of dubbing brush prep that goes into it. I can sit down and tie this kind of right away. But the real benefit is so the faux bucktail has a little bit of mass to it. So it's the same length and diameter as bucktail, but because it's not hollow and it probably has a higher material density or specific weight or specific gravity, whatever the mass unit is. I forget all that stuff. But basically it has a little bit of mass to it. And when you think about using a jerk fly, if you watch the hook proportions and considerations video, or hook properties and considerations. I'm going to use this, by the way, at about 5 inches, maybe 4.5 to 5 inches, not the full 6. But basically that mass from your hook and your wire thickness is what propels a jerk fly forward into its forward deflection, basically in between the tension of a jerk strip or a strip retrieve, right? So every time you strip that, you're adding tension in the strip. As soon as you stop stripping, that fly is going to start to carry off and deflect to the side. And the moment that starts to deflect, it's solely the mass of the hook that's going to propel that forward and carry that forward. Well, now, because you can use, the faux bucktail's got a little bit of weight to it, you're basically able to add mass to a light wire hook without compromising the action of that fly, because typically when you add materials they have water drag, but because this is a straight back slicked lightweight fiber that we're using as a kind of as a tail and wing support, right, it doesn't really have water drag. It's not a viscous material that's trapping water, and it's not a solid material that we're using to push water. So it's not a material property that has drag, and it's not a hydraulic kind of aerodynamic property that's pushing and displacing water to create drag. So it's super slick, and it allows you to add mass to a jerk fly and get a greater range of deflection in your action because of the way it's slicked back. So that's all stuff to consider that I think is interesting, and it makes faux bucktail really kind of excellent for this imposter variation, which I think I might call the faux hammer. We'll see. Anyway, I'm tying this faux bucktail with a corded thread in between a thread bump and my Flashabou body, Minnow body, and I am doing my best to stack it mostly top and bottom. I'm going to have to add just a little bit to the side here. It's kind of a 360 displacement, but I'm trying to get the greatest density top and bottom to build a tall silhouette, and not so much a 360. That way I get kind of use the wing as part of the sail for the jerk action. Wow, I feel like I've been talking really fast this whole time. Probably because I have. So I'm just filling this in, you know, you tie it in, there's a little sparseness on my side, so I just hit that with some faux bucktail. So that's all dandy, good to go. I'm going to come in, I got a Flashabou blend for the top. This is a standard Flashabou at full length, and it's kind of like a gold, holographic olive, a little bit of silver, and then dyed pearl in olive, pre-tapered, and I'm going to use that at about 70% back, 30% forward. And we're going to get kind of like an olive over white with a yellow throat patch style blend of this. Tag that on top. Distribute that a little bit off to the sides. Once you're happy with the displacement, you can bind that down. Grab this 30% fibers, build our taper. Shorter fibers leaning into the forward slope a little bit. Maximizing tip exposure and kind of simultaneous movement over that. And then we're just going to come, I don't know how I'll do the bottom. The bottom blend is it's about full length Flashabou, but it's cut an inch short, maybe 2 inches short, and then I did it 50-50, and it's got some dyed pearl and pink, a little bit of light chartreuse, a little bit of hollow silver, hollow yellow, and then it has some Flashabou accent flash and opal. That's our bottom color blend for the most part. And I'm going to tie this V-style the same way I do like an SF blend on a Conman or any of the Trout Nugget series. And that way, what I like about doing a V-style and a belly stack is you split. You tie it in twice, right? And you get a nice silhouette from it, but you split that hook point with your primary length of your fiber. That's a little dirty. This is coming out a little dirty, kind of like that. Dirty bait fish catch fish. So you can see it's basically completely solely a Flashabou fly at this point, and this is the point where we're going to blend it into a stacked fiber fly. To create our color saturation and to tone this down just a little bit. Gonna hit this again with some glue, and then we're gonna come in with the EP GameChanger blends, and I'm gonna blend an olive with a silver with a chartreuse for the top, and then the bottom's just gonna be straight white. And we're gonna tie the top in full length, not full length, but we're going to tie the top in 70-30 the same way we did the Flashabou. Get a forward leaning taper moving into our dubbing head, and then we're going to tie the bottom in quite a bit shorter than that, but trimmed to a 50-50 and tied in the exact same way as the Flashabou stack on the belly. And I want chartreuse highlights in that. Cool. So I got all my colors on here. I like to grab kind of the lower third mark when I'm blending synthetics and just pull them out and restack them. It's kind of like, I don't know, the way you'd blend dubbing, but on a super large scale. But it's a really easy way to blend our silver, olive, and chartreuse. I'm going to come in and measure this off so that it basically ends kind of where my last stack of full bucktail is. I'm going to come in and choose my front taper. So this is my overall length. Coming in, I got about 2 inches sticking out of the front that we're going to use to taper and build our front collar. And then I'm going to put maybe a 2-inch taper into that, and that's going to be what we reverse on top of our head here. Get a good clean color separation, top only. Push that a little bit onto the sides. You can come in with a comb to help set that to its resting spot. Tie that back towards the Flashabou, come up to the front of the material and bullet that. To set that down, you'll notice whenever I'm spreading this with my thumb, my left hand's always on my bobbin, so that my thread is always under tension. Distribute that the way I like. Come up in front of that, and we'll comb this out and make sure that that is a happy silhouette that's not going anywhere. Prime time. The bottom fibers are just EP GameChanger blend in white. You can use the EP GameChanger fibers, but the blends come with almost like an angel hair flash or ice wing fiber blended throughout the entire length of the material. So I took this, cut it in half, cut about 1 inch off of it, and I'm going to come in and put just the slightest taper, about 2 inches of taper, grab that hopefully towards the midpoint. So you can see I got about 2.5 inches of fiber on either end that we're going to V-style right on the bottom to create our stacked fibered belly. And that's going to be a V-style, half on your side, draw back the top fibers on mine, latch that down, and then make sure you come in with some post tie-in material kind of, I don't know, manipulation, and really make sure you got a clean color separation between that olive and that white. Then on top of this thread bump, we're going to attach our 1/16 inch width macro lateral line flash, which I did not prep, which ain't going to take long. And I like to tie this in about 60-40, maybe, just so the tips are just slightly uneven. And pin that directly to the side. Kind of draw that one up. Cool. I might try to get 2 stacks on here, or I might just do 1 for our dubbing head. We shall see. Well, that's so far we got a nice kind of dirty, almost like golden shiner with the flash blends we got going on. Flashabou stacked fibered hybrid fly. You can see that saturation from those stacked fibers. So I'm going to come in, I got some laser dub for the top to match my olive, and then some yellow FrankenFly monster dub for the throat patch to get a little bit of yellow, kind of almost like a trigger point in there. And I'm going to tie this in same as I did the con man, so I'm going to use a little bit more fibers than normal, but I'm going to use the whole shank to tie them in on. And I'm just going to do a single stack, tie it in 30% back, 70% over the front of the hook, to build kind of a steep little bump on the silhouette here, so that it bleeds into that back collar and wing. So you can see I got 30 and 70, so that when you fold that back, that's all supported and bumped up. Coming in with some yellow monster dub for the belly. This might be a little too much. Orient the fibers using friction to kind of point them all in the same direction, using light pinches when pulling this apart. And it increases the length of the fibers because it points them all in the same direction, and just helps you bind down more fibers without trapping them in kind of a random orientation. Makes the head a little bit slicker and a little bit longer, and you don't waste any fibers that way. This was like a speed tie. I'm like running through this sucker. Once I get this dubbing combed out, eyes on it, and epoxied with some Deer Creek UV diamond fine. I'll probably talk a little bit about jerk flies. Make sure I got clean colors, clean separation, identical lines on either side, equal density. One of the most, the most important thing for doing these kind of dubbing heads is really combing it out. It makes a huge difference to break free any trapped fibers and to kind of orient them all in the same direction. And makes a huge difference in how that silhouette of that fly turns out. So, super easy. That's the faux hammer. A little impostor variation using faux bucktail and Flashabou minnow body. I'm going to come and put some 10mm Deer Creek eyes on this guy, saturating the dubbing with Terramender, which is, I don't know, probably the best head cement style glue I've found for any kind of dubbing or natural material head. I still use the gel super glue anytime I'm doing deer hair or bucktail or fish masks and stuff, but for straight dubbing, you can't beat Terramender. And something that helps, you can put it on the top right here and the bottom, and when you let this set up, that'll it'll cure that into place. When that glue finished curing, it's almost to the point where you don't need a UV resin. The UV resin is simply kind of for tooth protection against the sides, so you can't have a tooth come in and lift that eye up. But for 80% of your fishing, that Terramender is just about all you need. Come in there, make sure I got that nice and pinched. Cool. So, jerk flies, right? So we got a faux hammer here. Just tied this guy. Well, we tied it in a different color, but we tied the fly. So again, what makes a jerk fly jerk? This is all in my, I have a hook properties and considerations video. And basically, all you need is basically, your hook gap and your wire thickness determine a bug's keeling ability. Now, when you displace a fly vertically and wants to roll on its side, that's why you have to compensate for that. Once you compensate and you get a jerk fly to keel, it's the vertical head, it's that material displacement that acts as a sail that carries the fly off to its side. And again, it's the hook mass and the mass of the materials that lack, they kind of have a greater mass to water friction ratio, such as faux bucktail, that adds kind of momentum behind a fly that allow it to jerk. Now, what I fear, it's okay. So when you swim a jerk fly, first and most important thing is your rod tip position. You have to consider that the whole point of fly fishing is to throw a weightless fly with a weighted line. Your line has mass to it. When you're on a riverbank and your rod is waist height above the river, it's parallel to your waist, parallel to the river at waist height. You have a loop coming from the tip of your rod down to the water level. Now, every time you strip your fly, that loop is going to bounce straight with tension and then fall with slack, and straight with tension and fall with slack. That falling action of the line after the strip adds tension to the fly. It adds tension to the nose of the fly, which stops it from jerking. You have to lower your rod tip to the water to remove the bend from your rod tip to the water, so that when you strip, your line is now fighting kind of water friction to fall, and it allows you to accurately and create a moment of slack tension to allow the fly to jerk. Now, when you swim a jerk fly, I don't walk the dog with them very often. You can, and that's an extremely efficient way to fish. I typically would do that if the fish are not as active, or if they're cold, or if I'm fishing maybe really open water. But as soon as I see a fish engage with my fly, I twitch it. It's a jerk strip, jerk, jerk strip, jerk strip, jerk, jerk strip. And what you have to understand is every time that fly has a moment of slack, that head begins to jerk. Anyway, the head jerks every time you give it slack tension for even half a second. And as soon as you strip that, you create the whip. between the jerks. You know what I mean? That fly, it's all head driven. Because it's all head driven, every time, every second, every moment between each strip, that fly begins to divert off to the side. Boom, you reorient it. Boom, you reorient it. Boom, you reorient it. And what a jerk fly allows you to do is to read a fish's behavior, read how active he is, like if he's accelerating towards your fly, and it allows you to kill your retrieve without it's almost like it gives you the opportunity to react to a fish's response. So as soon as you can animate that fly, twitch it, twitch it, twitch it, and you get a fish's attention and he starts to come for it and he accelerates towards that fly. As soon as you kill that fly, boom, you get the jerk action. You save the jerk action once you engage a fish. And so what you have is, you have this fly, it's 15 feet away from a fish, you're twitching it, maybe you're walking the dog, you get a fish's attention, and he starts to accelerate towards this fly, he's going to investigate it. If you can pull that away from a fish and then kill it, now you have lateral lines, you have counter shading, you have light over dark, you have a silhouette, you have an eye spot, maybe you have a gill patch. Like, you can sell that fly in a moment because you create the opportunity of when the fly is killed, when the fly presents itself in the most susceptible moment to a predator, simply by the timing at which you choose to animate the jerk retrieve. Like, do you understand what I mean? It gives you the sole responsibility of hunting a fish. You get the action, you read the water, you present the fly, you get the follow, and then you twitch it, twitch it, twitch it, twitch it, and kill it. And you have to, it is the most rewarding thing ever to engage a fish, get that fish to begin to accelerate, right? You pull it away from the fish. You never want to slow down a retrieve. You pull it away from the fish. You get that fish to engage the moment he accelerates towards that fly, twitch, twitch, kill. And you present that with a boom, profile shot, 100% opportunity to kill that fly, and you sell it with the eyes, the lateral lines, and the counter shading. That's why all that's there. It's not there so it looks pretty, and it's not there so I can sell it to people. It's there so I can sell it to a fish at that exact moment that he decides he wants to know what that is, right? You don't give him a chance to just tail it and follow it, and then you pull it away and he accelerates, and you pull it away and he accelerates. Pull it away and then kill it the moment he begins to accelerate, and he will inhale this belly deep. And so one of the things I talked about earlier is that saturation of the EP GameChanger fibers is maybe only 6 inches. And so when this fly, which is about 8.5 inches long, jerks off to the side and shows that profile, the profile is only this big. This is the fly, this is the silhouette, this is what he sees, and that hook is perfectly positioned into that first third to half mark, where when that's T-boned, it's a done deal. And I've caught a boatload of smallmouth bass on a 4-aught hook Impostor at 8.5 inches because the way the silhouette's designed for saturation on the turn when you kill that fly, all fish are going to aim for that head just behind the head to stun it, kill it, and hang on to it in their mouth, even pike, just to hang on to it to manipulate it later head first. It's all, it's just prime placement. So that's why it's a single hook fly. The faux bucktail adding material mass without material viscosity is going to add momentum to the hook to create the greatest jerk action. That I don't use that jerk action all the time, right? But I use it in combination with a jerk strip retrieve, and every slack moment between that jerk strip retrieve is a moment for that head to divert and then reorient, divert, reorient, and you send a wavelength down that fly, and you get a fish's attention, you accelerate it, you pull it away, and then you kill it. And it's the most visual thing you can do. It's crazy how fun that is to watch. So that's why I love jerk flies. So I have jerk juniors, super jerks, mega jerks, keeled jerks, hollow points, imposters, and now a faux hammer, which is honestly just an impostor variation. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know I talked really fast, probably too fast. I had a lot of coffee this morning. So yeah, take that, tie a whole bunch of these because it's the most fun thing to fish, period. I know it's not the biggest fly, you know, by modern standards, I mean, it would even be your average size for brown trout nowadays, but it's just so fishy. So, cheers. Enjoy tying. Enter in the Flyman competition. Tag them, whatever you got to do to enter that. Look them up on Instagram and find out the kind of requirements. And yeah, have a good day. See ya.